Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Salatu wa salam ala Rasul al-Kareem. A warm welcome to you all. We are so happy to have you here in this session. We'll start right away. We will have the welcoming and introduction by myself, and then it's going to be followed by a remark by Kishan, as well as from the Director of European Bank for Construction, Nadita Parshad. Well, on behalf of Islamic Development Bank, I would like to thank UNDP for collaborating with us to organize this event in our pavilion. I also like to congratulate Regional Center for Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency, together with its partners, Arab Climate Resilient Initiative and UNDP, for producing this third edition of the Arab Energy Future Index Renewable Energy 2016 report. Well, we are so happy that FX is the first Arab index dedicated to monitoring and analyzing sustainable energy competitiveness in the Arab region. We, as an institution, are delighted to be part of this event because the report is very informative and timely. At IDB Group, we do have an initiative called Reverse Linkage Program that can help in transferring best practices in one member countries to another. For instance, the report that we're about to launch today identified leading Arab renewable energy competitiveness market and investment climate for project development. We at IDB would like to know the critical success factors and lessons learned from the experiences of these countries, as well as the challenges and bottlenecks to be addressed to enable other member countries to catch up. On this note, I wish to congratulate ARCRI, UNDP and ACRI for producing this knowledge product, which I believe will go a long way to raise awareness and support Arab regions in shifting to a low-carbon and sustainable energy future. In conclusion, I wish you good luck in your deliberation. Thank you. So I would like to invite Kishan Kode, Regional Team Leader of UNDP.
Thank you, Abdul Latif, and welcome everyone to this event co-hosted by the Islamic Development Bank and United Nations Development Program, UNDP, and the Regional Center for Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency. It's a pleasure to have you here, and I'm glad to see people are making their way in, and I'm sure more will come as the side event progresses. So thanks, first of all, to IDB for co-hosting this important event. IDB and UNDP launched this year a new global MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, to expand our cooperation, including in the area of energy. And so we're really happy to have the launch of this report today, which highlights some of the challenges as well as the opportunities in this region, in particular in the Middle East and North Africa. It's an important timing for this, of course, given the passage of the Sustainable Development Goals and as well as the entry into force of the Paris Agreement recently. So the production of this report, congratulations, first of all, to our partners at the Regional Center for Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency, an excellent report which focuses on low-carbon, sustainable energy pathways to achieving the Paris Climate Agreement and the Sustainable Development Goals, including goal number 7 on energy. It's really quite timely, tracking the progress of Arab countries in this regard. Over 20 indicators, in-depth analysis and recommendations on how countries in the region can really achieve their national climate plan goals of scaling up renewable energy in coming years. It helps countries, it ranks countries on their progress on regulatory institutional structures, on progress on financial innovations, expanding access to sustainable energy, and also ways to achieve local results under the Arab Regional Strategy for Renewable Energy, which is passed by the League of Arab States in concert with their member states across the Arab region. As seen in this year's rankings and the report, impressive results are starting to be seen in the region, making the shift to a sustainable energy future. but more needs to be done. The challenges faced in the region are complex. In many countries, renewable energy can help achieve local development goals and build resilience of poverty reduction efforts. Many countries in the region are also in the crisis situation, and energy is also a critical factor in those countries for meeting the needs of conflict-affected communities and supporting resilient recovery from crisis. Even in oil-exporting countries, renewable energy is now becoming a very strategic means to reduce carbon footprints, such as in the Gulf, and the energy intensity of growth. UNDP stands ready with our partners in all these efforts. Through our capacity development initiatives, we have about $3 billion of grants at the moment around the world on climate change to help countries implement their climate plans and their broader development goals at the country level. And we're happy to capture some of the success stories coming from the region through today's report. This is an important milestone, COP22, in this region, and we look forward to working with our regional partners and our country partners. We thank our representatives from Jordan, Morocco, and Egypt for being with us here today, 3 of the top-ranking countries in this year's Arab Future Energy Index report. Thank you very much, and I pass the podium to her. Let me invite next to the podium Elizabeth Baxter, Associate Banker, Power and Energy Utilities at the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development. Elizabeth.
Hello, everyone. I'm Elizabeth Baxter of the EBRD. We began investing in this region after the Arab Spring when the G8 asked for us to bring our model of private and public investment to the region. So far, we invest in Morocco, Tunisia, Egypt, and Jordan of the countries covered in the Arab Future Energy Index. And we hope in the near future to invest in Lebanon and Libya also. We have invested almost €1 billion since we began operating in this region in the power sector alone. And of the power generation investments we've made, about half of them have been in renewable energy. I wanted to talk today in particular about an initiative we've launched in line with the work of the analysis of the Arab Future Energy Index to try to overcome some of the barriers to progress for sustainability and also for mobilizing the private sector, which is a particular key part of our mission. So we call our countries in this region the Southern and Eastern Mediterranean, or CEMED, and we've launched something called the CEMED Private Renewable Energy Framework to target, in particular, the private-to-private renewable energy projects. So while we can invest in all sorts of energy projects in the region, we are using this framework as a way to mobilize climate investment funds to accompany the EBRD finance to try to catalyze the initial projects under these newer private-to-private models where the developer and owner is private, but also the off-taker of the wind farm or solar power plant. So far, we have financed the Khaladi wind farm near Tanger in Morocco, a 120-megawatt wind farm. And overall, for this framework, we've secured so far $35 million from the Clean Technology Fund and $15 million from the Global Environment Facility to accompany EBRD investment and private-to-private projects in the region. We have a second project that we're hoping to finance shortly in Jordan, and which is a solar project, private-to-private, cement company offtake, and we are working on a pipeline of investments to deploy the rest of the concessional finance alongside EBRD finance. And if there are more barriers to this private-to-private market model and more demand from investors, we'll seek additional concessional finance to expand this program, which we're also accompanying with policy dialogue and technical cooperation. For example, we're working with Morocco to open the 1309 high-voltage private-to-private renewable energy projects to the medium voltage consumers also. And we're working with the government of Tunisia to write the power purchase agreement for the feed-in tariff project that process that they're establishing. So thank you all for inviting us to be here today, and we look forward to contributing and partnering with you all to continue to make progress in this field. Thank you.
Thank you to the EBRD for joining us at this event. So it's my pleasure to invite next our keynote presentation, our keynote speaker, Dr. Ahmed Badr, Executive Director of the Regional Center for Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency, to present this year's AFEX 2016.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. I'm promised that I won't be that long. I'm trying to be quick. It's planned for 10 minutes. So basically, as you all know, that the Arab Future Energy Index is a product that RCRE now is continuing each year after the other for one renewable energy and one for energy efficiency. Very quick about RCRE. RCRE is a pan-Arab intergovernmental institutions with membership of 17 countries. And we have focal points in our 17 member countries. And we are in operation in 2008 in the host country, which is Egypt, and basically operate in the 17 countries. Not to talk a lot about vision and mission, but to say we are mandated to go for promoting renewable energy and energy efficiency practices in the region, and basically to go for modern access energy solutions. And basically to do that, we had to work on several fronts all along sustainable energy applications. This year, we increased our assessment to cover 20 countries. This is what you see: Algeria, Bahrain, Djibouti. And basically, as you know, our perimeter in terms of countries, we are looking for 22 countries. We are expanding. We started with these numbers, but this year, proudly speaking, we're talking about these 20 countries of the pan-Arab countries. Quickly, if you look what is the AFEX 2016 have summarized based on the assessment that we will detail. We are going to follow top-down approach, so we give some kind of high findings or key findings, and then we go down. So basically, if you look for what's the situation by 2016, we find that more than 80 gigawatts announced targets within the countries up to year 2030. So their target here, because there are some countries, they went below, above 2030. And this is what we'll see in the details. We have more than 2,000 megawatts already under construction, and we are basically reaching more than 6% of the overall installed capacity in the 20 countries we assess. It's always, we used to be below 4% of the overall installed capacity, that we will see the numbers after that, but now we are more than 6%. For sure, this includes the hydro power generation. If you go for the Arab Energy Index, we have to say that there are key findings. Number one is that policy assessment and benchmarking, we're looking for 4 categories or pillars and 30, or actually 28 key performance indicators. But if we add up the higher level, we reach 38. Basically, the AFEX is used as a monitoring tool, basically to attract foreign direct investors and financial institutions to see the performance of each country. So by that, we benefit our member countries by saying, look, this is the situation, and this basically, you will see that we are ranking now the top 3 performers as in the following descending order: Morocco, Jordan, and Egypt. Again, 20 countries of assessment, basically designed to impress and attract foreign direct investors, and ranking the countries, not to compare what's good and bad, but to say, we are seeing this based on factual, quantitative, and qualitative indicators. Basically, we identify areas of intervention and to recommend to the countries what should be done next in order to further improve the share of sustainable energy, whether energy efficiency or renewable energy. The formulated targets has to be revised every 2 to 3 years, or by the countries every 5 years. Each of the countries has to follow their policies, basically with the aim to put improvement on the regulatory systems and institutional framework to attract more foreign direct investments. More findings is actually that the top leading countries in the following descending order, again, Morocco, Jordan, Egypt, Emirates, Algeria, are taking the top-notch 5 countries among the 20 we are assessing. Tunisia and Lebanon are successful in leveraging their small-scale investments and also taking the pioneering role with financial solutions. And this is really actually helping a lot for them to minimize the gap between demand and supply. Sudan and Mauritania are actually standing in high in renewable energy generation, specifically Mauritania. Actually, Mauritania taking very high international ranking at the world scale because they are taking a major part of covering renewable energy solution, despite they are going for decentralized solutions. Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Kuwait, or Gulf countries in general are embracing encouraging measures, basically to pave the way for more investment. Last of which, I have to say that the announced plan for the government for the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia for non-oil-based country, non-oil-based economy, they put one of the key pillars is renewable energy. If you look for Yemen, residential and commercial sector, actually they are facing resorted solution for solar PV solution in order to face the current status quo they have in their country. But they are working, and actually we are, as a RICRI, working hand in hand with World Bank with some of these solutions. 2016 actually have defined, as I just mentioned, more than 3,000 megawatt, or actually 2,000 megawatt under construction plus 2 other megawatt just entered, because when you put this evaluation, there was 200, or actually more than 200 megawatt added. So that's why the number of 2,800 was improved to 3,000. The region now is starting to put flagship projects for solar projects, specifically for Morocco, like Noor 1, Noor 2, and Noor 3 projects. They are extremely fantastic, and they are putting flagship projects. I don't want to be that long on that, but most of the countries actually have the human capital, the skills, and industrial base to further expand and grow the renewable energy share within their energy matrix. Distributed generations is gaining momentum in the region. This is including least developed countries, meaning talking about here some countries like Djibouti, Mauritania, and Sudan. And this is basically adding also to some of the other middle-income countries for utility scale project, which is something of a new intervention, and RICRI is planning to put some more support to the countries based on their demand or their request to work on that front. In Algeria and Egypt, several small-scale and small medium-sized projects have come in line since 2015, and under the scheme of feed-in tariff. 12 countries out of 20 of the Arab countries are actually, most of the oil-based countries are enacting now on subsidy reform or energy subsidy reform. And this is really a very amazing step, and we're going to detail that with a geographic presentation in the following slides. But we have to embrace that as well. Most of the Arab countries actually are currently supporting small form of private sector participation for power generation, and this is really adding a lot for the attraction of foreign direct investment. Basically, financial institutions like EBRD and IFC are very much interested to support such a kind of mechanisms. Still, the key challenge that faces the countries is the grid, the infrastructure, because the main character of most of the investment in the region is for larger scale projects. Yet smaller scale needs to be considered. There is some movement, as we just explained, but infrastructure represented mainly by the grid, and the strength and the reliability of the grid is a challenge that countries is taking measures to work on, but still need to do more work on that. The AFEX, how the AFEX or the index is calculated. It's calculated based on 4 categories, which is market structure, policy framework, finance and investments, and institutional capacity. What you see in a smaller font is actually some of the key performance or the key indicators that each of these categories are relying on. So if you look for market structure, we're talking about what about independent power producers? What about grid access? If you go, for example, for the institutional capacity, you're talking about RE institutions. We're talking about governance system. So we need to take more details about this. These are in a very quick way the 28 indicators, the detailed one, which they sum up for key ones, aiming for 10 key pillars, key indicators, and they then summing up, higher up for 4 categories. You can see that in more details because I think that we are running of the time of exactly 5 minutes. But if you look at these indicators, is exactly how to make the projects bankable. Very important for any of the financial institution and to come up together with the private sector that to see the project is bankable. These are the elements that any financial institution looking at to say, okay, I can support foreign direct investors to come and invest based on the indicators and the level of competitiveness of these key performance indicators. The region is actually, if you look about how the countries are having their institution, you can really see which countries are the top performers. If you look, for example, for Morocco, you can see that they have 3 institutions, one for renewable energy, one for energy efficiency, and one for investments. And that's why when you look for the access and attraction to finance an investment, you see that Morocco is taking the lead. If you look for the case of Jordan, actually, Jordan following very special scheme like direct proposals or feed-in tariff, but they have a system that follows identically transparent system of IFC and EBRD, and this is also added to their policy framework, and that's what they put them in the front. But in general, these are the institutions and energy regulatory agencies that basically represent key factors for increasing the renewable energy share in the pan-Arab countries. Targets in the regions that as identified by the countries, you can see clearly that most of the countries, they are putting their targets for the year between 2020 or 2023, but some of which are actually going further, like Saudi Arabia to year 2040, so they are putting measures or targets for 2030 and measures for 2040, like the case of Saudi Arabia. Actually, we tried to put it in one slide, but we find it will be extremely small. That's why we sought to divide it. But actually, one of the very important issues that the achieve the targets is actually not saying that there are more long way to go through, as Kishan, my colleague, mentioned, that there is more to be done in order to reach these targets. Again, if we look for the numbers that I put it in brief at the first slide, that the region now achieved more than 6% of their overall installed capacity as renewable energy. We can see clearly that still the major part coming from the hydro, but what's really important is that the percent share for wind and solar is now increasing. It was used to be less than 1% in the past couple of years. Now it's coming more than 1.2%, which is again is an achievement represented by more than, as we just mentioned, 3,000 megawatt. If you look at the percentage of coverage for electricity and the need for renewable energy to take share, we can see clearly that the countries that indeed need for that are the least developed countries, or LDCs. We can name it like Mauritania, Sudan, Somalia, Yemen, and Djibouti. These countries are really in deep need, and basically we as RCREE, in partnership with our partners from financial institutions like IDBG and the EBRD, and also with our main partner, UNDP, we were going to work to put measures to improve their access to modern energy, sustainable energy solutions. Let's put some kind of highlighting on some important numbers that we discussed with our distinguished guest after my presentation. There are 9 countries out of the 20, they have IPP, or Independent Power Producer Public Competitive Bidding. We have 2 countries of direct proposal. Emphasized this is the case of Jordan, who are really top performer for that. 2 countries have feed-in tariff. 4 countries following net metering scheme. And actually more than 15 countries of the region, and this is the key issue, they are following ABC contracting, and sometimes they go one step mile saying ABC plus finance, like the case of Egypt. If you look for the supporting policies for the larger scale projects, we can find that for the case of Morocco, they have IPP. We are selecting some countries, by the way, not all countries, because it will eat will take more time than the 10 minutes. I believe that we are reaching now 9 minutes. But if we take the case of one of the top performer, which is Morocco, they have IBB public competitive bidding. They already put the target of 1,002 megawatt wind, tendered already 1,010 megawatt. They put already solar target 1,000 megawatt, and they already tender 5,100. They also they have PPA for wind for 150 megawatt and solar 510 megawatt. If you go for other country, we go, for example, for Algeria, they put feed-in tariff, yet they didn't tender anything, but they put the scheme approved by their parliament, but not yet enforced. If you go for a country like Egypt, they have feed-in tariff. They announced it phase 1, and their summit challenge faced phase 1. They go for phase 2, improving the situation. Last of which is that the floating of hard currency improved the competitiveness edge for Egypt. We go for IPP. They already announced 2,500 megawatt. They tender 250. One ongoing now for solar, which 120. If we have the case of Jordan, because one of the top performers, they have direct proposal submission. They have round 1. They already put 117 megawatt for wind in Tafila. And in 2015, BV, they put 10 megawatt. And then they have very fast pace and speed after that for the second round. They put 200 megawatt, represented by 4 power plant, each of 50 megawatt, in northeast and middle of Jordan. And again, let's look for Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia actually, based on the new ambitious plan announced by the Deputy Crown King, His Excellency Prince Mohammed bin Salman, they put target for solar between 500 to 800 megawatt for solar, and they already tender 1 megawatt, but they have ambitious plan. They have the resources, but they taking that as a first learning curve, and as informed a couple of weeks ago in the CAPSARC, in the science city of King Abdulaziz University, that they will move with triples of these targets in the coming 2 years. Last one will be basically IBB bidding. This is a case of United Arab Emirates. They announced 1,000 megawatt. They tendered already 800 megawatt. And they already put the PPA for 300 megawatt. And always, UAE is the case for putting the new market price references in the Arab world and also at the world scale. I think it's very important to see how the countries are performing with regard to their subsidy and how that's the case. Here we are looking for the residential electricity sector, the energy price. Always and ever, Palestine is the case for the market price in the region, simply because they are not subsidized. So you can see easily that most of the electricity residential energy prices are really falling behind the international market prices. And this is really putting a lot of pressure on the governments, and have to say that this situation, if compared to years ago, prices are moving and the government putting policies in order to phase out subsidy, but this has to take time, giving the social safety net measures and the reform that have to be accompanied to ensure that the lowest poverty line have been well respected. If you go for the commercial electricity, you can see that prices, and based on the countries, already started to move out and to put categorized subsidy system or reform. Basically, they are adding or taking more slower steps for phasing out subsidy for residential sector, but they are moving very quickly for the commercial sector to phase out this. And you can see that it's not only Palestine, but also Morocco. You can see countries like Mauritania, they already taking further steps. And even if you go for the case like Jordan, Lebanon, and the other countries, and even for Gulf state countries, if you compare for their prices, they used to go for 100, something like 95% subsidy, they go now for 90%. So by time, as per announced plan, they are phasing out for commercial sector. If you go for the electricity industrial sector, you can see situation even taking more faster pace to phase out subsidy. And here I would like to share the point that thanks to Dr. Maged, my colleague, who is the author of this report with his team, Engineer Mariam and the others, and the other colleagues, that there is very important to decouple the energy subsidy from the industrial growth of these countries. Because simply, it's quite clear that if we look for the country like Morocco, like basically, let me take the case of Morocco and Jordan. They put policies to phase out subsidy very aggressively with industrial sector, and industrial sector is still growing. And this means that there is no connection, and there is a need for decouple energy subsidy from industrial sector. This is my final slide. If you look for the the overall final performance, that you can see that Morocco is taking the first top performance with 71%, Jordan coming in the second with 66%, third of which is Egypt coming with 55%, and United Arab Emirates coming with 54%, and finally Palestine with 51%. This is a nutshell. I'm sorry I talk about 13 minutes, or actually 14 minutes, but we are ready to open question, and some of which I will not be able to catch. I have to say that my colleague Dr. Maged, the author with his team, could also jump in and to answer. Thank you very much. Allow me now to start a very important session. Actually, we have 3 distinguished speakers from the top performing countries from, let's go for the same order of performance, from Morocco, from Jordan, and from Egypt. And we have some specific, let's say, points in which we would like to have our distinguished speakers to look at and to give their perspective, and so we enlighten all audience about what basically key issues, what was the challenges, what needs to be done further in order for these 3 performing countries to keep their base of reform in good, let's say, not in high speed, but in an adjustable speed, given the challenges on the social safety net that needs to be well kept. So our very distinguished speaker is Dr. Abdelali Dakina. He is our board member, and at the same time, he's taking the charge or the director for strategic and development in AME, which is the Moroccan Energy Efficiency Agency. And first of all, how do you see what was the key positive and also the key challenges that Morocco faced in order to give such kind of very high speed of performance in the last 5 years, and actually to act in a very good, or putting in force a very good attractive business environment or business climate for investors to step in? Dr. Dakina, floor is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Badr, for inviting me in this important side event. I thank also all the organizers of this side event, UNDP, Islamic Bank, and RICRI. And as I think we have the translation between different languages, I will switch in French if it's no problem for you. Thank you very much. I will be easy. Bon. Donc, je tiens d'abord à rendre un hommage au RICRI, au Centre régional des énergies et de l'efficacité énergétique, dont le Maroc, avec des pays amis et des pays stratégiques qui ont appuyé la création du RICRI. Nous étions donc dès le départ à l'origine de la création de ce centre. Et j'avais l'honneur et le privilège de faire membre du comité exécutif de ce centre en 2009 jusqu'à 2012 à côté de nos collègues. Donc je tiens à rendre hommage à ce centre qui a pris sa place au niveau de la région MENA et qui a fait un certain nombre de choses. D'abord, sur l'ensemble des activités d'échange de bonnes pratiques, d'harmonisation entre les uns et les autres, et surtout de formation et de training donc, pour les différents membres, aussi bien au niveau de la région MENA qu'au niveau de la région, qu'au niveau de la Méditerranée du Nord, avec nos amis stratégiques tels que les Allemands, les Danois et l'Union européenne qui ont été à l'origine de l'appui de la création de ce centre. Aujourd'hui, comme ça a été montré, donc cet index énergétique au niveau de la région arabe montre que nous sommes sur la voie et sur la trajectoire d'une transition énergétique au niveau de nos pays. Le Maroc a une certaine spécificité. Donc la spécificité du Maroc, c'est que vous savez que nous sommes importateurs de plus de 95% de nos besoins énergétiques. Et nous disposons également de ressources énergétiques renouvelables considérables. L'ensemble de la région MENA se trouve dans la ceinture solaire qui jouit d'abord donc de gisements très importants, sans oublier que aussi au niveau donc des gisements éoliens, il y a aussi un gisement très important parmi les plus importants, du moment que sur cette région marocaine, nous avons une distance côtière qui s'étale sur plus de 3500 km et qui dispose de vitesses du vent qui sont autour de 10 mètres par seconde sur une durée relativement importante sur l'année. D'ailleurs, les centres comme Tanger, comme ça a été cité par le BRD, que je remercie aussi à l'occasion, pour l'appui qu'il fait et qui, je vais switcher plus tard à l'efficacité énergétique pour parler également de ce volet-là qui est aussi un volet très important. Donc je dirais que la disponibilité en termes de gisements vent sur certains sites, notamment au niveau du Nord, dépasse les 4000 à 4500 heures par an. Chose qui est dans la moyenne au niveau des pays du Nord, comme en Allemagne, en France, c'est une disponibilité qui est autour de 2500 à 3000 heures dans les meilleurs des cas. Et donc quand vous comparez 4500 à 2500, vous pouvez faire la différence au prorata un petit peu de ce qui peut être en termes de productivité, en termes de coûts, etc. Et pas plus qu'il y a quelques mois de ça, au Maroc, nous avons jugé un coût de kilowattheure éolien le plus bas au niveau international. C'était autour de 32 cents euros le kilowattheure, même moins cher qu'un coût du kilowattheure produit par les énergies fossiles telles que le charbon ou le fioul. Donc, pour dire qu'aujourd'hui, la maturité de certaines filières énergie renouvelable, comme l'éolien, comme également le photovoltaïque. Aujourd'hui, l'énergie solaire photovoltaïque également a atteint des coûts de production qui pourraient être autour de 60 à 70 centimes le kilowattheure en termes, donc 70 centimes de dirham marocain le kilowattheure. Donc c'est autour de 6 cents euros le kilowattheure et c'est quelque chose de très important. Ça a été montré tout à l'heure au niveau des coûts et des tarifs, parce que finalement les tarifs au niveau de la région arabe sont des tarifs très différenciés d'un pays à l'autre. Et là où il y a une subvention relativement importante, bien sûr, la rentabilité des renouvelables reste très discutable. Chez nous, aujourd'hui, le coût du kilowattheure qu'on paye au niveau du réseau, même au niveau des ménages, c'est autour de 1 dirham 20 le kilowattheure. Quand on sait qu'avec l'éolien, je peux le produire à 30 centimes, avec le photovoltaïque, je peux le produire à 60 centimes, donc à moitié prix, ce qui fait qu'est-ce qui reste à ce niveau-là? La technologie est là, la maturité technologique, les capacités également sont là, reste bien sûr un accompagnement et un encadrement au niveau institutionnel et réglementaire. Et c'est de ce sens-là, quand on a lancé la stratégie énergétique nationale en 2009, il y a eu tout un arsenal, aussi bien juridique, réglementaire qu'institutionnel, qui a suivi cette stratégie. D'abord, la loi sur les énergies renouvelables, la 1309, qui a encadré un petit peu l'intervention dans le secteur selon plusieurs gammes de puissance, avec bien sûr une liberté de produire librement jusqu'à 20 kW pour n'importe qui pour sa propre consommation. De 20 à 2 MW, c'est une déclaration qu'il faut faire auprès de l'autorité publique. Et au-delà de 2 MW, c'est une autorisation. Et donc, sur ce sujet-là, donc, il a cadré un petit peu la production. Et aujourd'hui, sur l'éolien, par exemple, je reviens à cela, plus de la moitié de ce qui était comme objectif de 2020, le 2000 MW, elle est produite par le secteur privé. Et sur cela, donc, il y a des cimentiers, il y a des sucreries, il y a un certain nombre d'institutions également publiques qui produisent pour leurs propres besoins et pour leur propre compte. Et le secteur et cette loi a permis d'ouvrir ce secteur au secteur privé. Pour ce qui est donc du solaire, effectivement, là aussi, pour tout ce qui est la haute et la très haute tension, pour les renouvelables, la loi et le réglemente. Reste aujourd'hui, bien sûr, la basse tension et la moyenne tension pour qu'un utilisateur où un résidentiel puisse produire et puis utiliser les différents mécanismes et instruments qui ont été présentés, comme le net metering, etc. Nous sommes en train de militer pour au moins qu'on fasse de la compensation nette, c'est-à-dire un troc ou un net metering au même prix, sans qu'il y ait mobilisation, disons, d'argent autour, donc, dans les échanges. Et j'espère qu'on va y arriver donc, à mettre ça en place, sachant que il y a, si je parle du potentiel toit solaire petite puissance, ça pourrait être chiffré à des gigawatts et des gigawatts. Si je parle, par exemple, dans le cas de pompage solaire pour faire de l'irrigation, à 100 000 agriculteurs qui optent pour 10 kilowatts d'une puissance, 100 000 fois 10 kilowatts, ça fait quand même des gigawatts à ce niveau-là. Ça fait 1 gigawatt de puissance. Et donc, les petites puissances, une fois rassemblées ensemble, permettent d'avoir un impact important. Et quand on regarde les applications diffuses et disséminées à travers le territoire, elles ont un impact social important en termes de création d'emplois, un impact économique également parce que ça permet de réduire la facture au niveau micro, etc. Donc je vais tout de suite passer à l'efficacité énergétique pour dire que c'est aussi l'un des piliers importants qui a été consacré dans la stratégie énergétique nationale. Et aujourd'hui, l'ensemble, disons au niveau mondial, s'accorde que pour arriver à faire les moins de 2 degrés d'ici 2100, les mesures d'efficacité énergétique à elles seules représentent la moitié du chemin à faire pour faire les moins de 2 degrés. Et donc l'efficacité énergétique est également un potentiel important. Nous avons créé une agence dédiée à cette problématique et nous avons fait un débat national sur le potentiel de l'efficacité énergétique au niveau des différents secteurs énergivores. Le transport, c'est le premier secteur consommateur d'ailleurs et le premier secteur pollueur. L'industrie, l'agriculture, l'éclairage public. Et l'éclairage public, ça nous ramène à parler aussi de la problématique énergétique au niveau des autorités locales et des territoires, au niveau des communes urbaines. Et vous savez que les communes urbaines, au niveau de l'éclairage des villes, l'éclairage public, leur prend plus de 30% de leurs dépenses au niveau local. Et c'est quelque chose de très important. Et sur le plan technologique, sur le plan de gestion de ce secteur, les économies d'énergie possibles peuvent représenter de 50 même à 70%. Quand on parle de passer de lampes à très haute consommation à des LED qui permettent d'avoir un service encore meilleur, on peut diviser la consommation par 2, par 3, voire plus. Et dans ce cas-là, le potentiel aussi d'économie d'énergie est très important et il est aussi important que celui des renouvelables. Et donc, je vois que le président me regarde. Donc, je reste à votre disposition si vous avez donc d'autres questions à poser. Merci.
Merci beaucoup, Dr Dakina, pour votre explanation. C'est très parfait. Merci beaucoup. Bashman Ziad, we have two issues that we'd like to discuss with you, actually, and to have your insights. It's quite obvious that the Kingdom of Jordan has announced a very ambitious target plan. You've already taken measures in a very fast pace. Still, there is very long way to go. So we would like to hear from you what is the targets or what is the measures that you will take to expand the renewable energy share in the overall mix of the kingdom, and what are the barriers. But actually, we have another point that we would like to hear from you. You're currently having severe pressure increasing because of the refugees in the kingdom. And within the national response plan that the kingdom and His Majesty the King is putting in order to accommodate these human needs among these huge communities, we're talking about millions here. In that sense, the kingdom already announced through the government that they will put some measures from renewable energy to support access to energy within these communities, specifically in the winter time, which is very much needed into having people having acceptable living conditions. What are the measures that you are adding to your plan as part of the overall national response plan of Jordan? We really would like to have these two highlights from your good self. Floor is yours, Dr. Ziad, please. Merci beaucoup, Doctor.
Well, thank you so much, and good afternoon, everybody. And I would like to thank really RICRI and UNDP and the Islamic Development Bank for inviting me to this side event. I think this is a very important side event, and really I would like to thank RICRI for conducting this REFX for the Arab countries. It's really a good indicator, and it helps a lot of countries how to continue proceeding with their targets and achieving their role. I will be brief, Dr. Ahmed, because in Jordan it was easy why we reach such good progress in the renewables. Jordan has adopted the learning by doing concept. If you look 10 years back, no renewable, we used to float tenders in the market, and down the road during negotiations, evaluation, we stuck with the developers, and really it was a good learning exercise. So we stopped all our tendering process, and we learned what the investors and lenders and all those stakeholders need in order to invest in renewable energy. And the most important thing is the regulatory framework. So you have to have a stable regulatory framework. Investors need to know with whom he has to deal and to secure his investment. What are the contractual package need to be in place in order to proceed further. And also they need to see there is some policy or strategy in the country where is the renewable allocated in that strategy, which is the policy targets. And also they need to know how to price their proposals. So what taxation regime applicable in Jordan? What are the incentives you gave them? And also the last point is the grid capacity and the grid reinforcement and the grid impact studies. So all these things really we managed to get some technical assistance from the World Bank, and we conducted all those related studies. Now we have the renewable energy law in place. It's really very well drafted and dedicated for renewable energy. And in that law we have the so-called direct proposal scheme. It's really a unique in the region. And we managed to convince the grid utilities and all the policy makers that renewables, they are not base load, so you cannot compare them with competitive bidding process for combined cycle. They are opportunities. And we listed in the law what are the requirements that should be provided in the developer in order to submit a direct proposal. And really it was very well structured. Now, and as you have seen, and EBRD is aware, we launched 2 rounds, and it was very well structured. Really, they are according to capacities. The prices really, we paid a little bit high prices in round 1, but it was really a learning exercise. Now we have bankable and template documents, BBA, grid connection agreement, government guarantee. So round 2 was really much easier, and we get half the price of round 1. Now in the pipeline next week we are going to announce the 3rd round. Will be similar to round 2, 200 megawatt and 100 megawatt wind, and we are expecting good prices, because we think that now all the documentations are in place for lenders. They are bankable, acceptable. So this is really what Jordan has done. We laid down all the necessary regulations and financial frameworks in order to attract investment in renewables. Really, this is what we now with those schemes. We have now in Jordan 1,300 megawatt of renewables contracted. Even in your affix, Dr. Badr, round 1 solar, they are now operational. So now in Jordan we have 400 megawatt, half wind, half solar are operational now. Next year we are going to have the same, and the rest will be by 2019. So this is really what we have done so far. For the refugees, you are right. Jordan destined to receive a lot of fluxes of refugees. Now the Syrian refugees and the others accounted for more than 20% of Jordan population. It's really a heavy burden, but we are lucky that most of them, they are in the north part of Jordan. So most of the support schemes from lenders, from donors, really we thank them a lot for providing such assistance to those refugees. And we received a lot of funding to build solar power plants and to distribute LED bulbs and energy efficiency schemes. Now we are going to develop to build 15 megawatt solar PV funded by the KfW, the German bank. And there's another 40 megawatt also grant from KfW to support the local communities in the north, because they suffered a lot from their needs, and because they're sharing their needs with the refugees. So now really we have a very robust resilience plan, and I think things are going smoothly without any hindrance. Thank you so much, really.
Actually, before we go for our last and the best distinguished speakers, Dr. Ahmed, I have to say that over the past 5 years, I was part of the team who used to work with Engineer Ziad. I have to say that the famous sentence that I copied from the person who is absent by body but present by soul, that Dr. Salmawi, the ex-regulator of Egypt, that Jordan was cooking while eating. And they have to face the problem that all of a sudden Egyptian gas supplies stopped, and this man has to support all supplies actually for all the Jordan national and the flood coming from Syria, and he did it very well. So thank you very much. It was a challenge, and he did it. Thank you very much. Let me introduce our third guest speaker, whom I owe him a lot of proficiency. Actually, I get to know him when I was working for water sector. He was always in the board of the companies that I has to work for, Professor Dr. Imad Adli. Despite Dr. Imad has one of the very big NGOs for the water and energy nexus, and he was one of the world leaders in that front. He also providing the government of Egypt and most of international organizations with his experiences and advices, last of which I was with him with the board of directors of EBRD. Dr. Ahmed, the floor is yours. I have a couple of issues that I would like to share with you. This is regarding Egypt. I'm sure you share with me the idea that Egypt in the past, let's say starting 2014 or late 2013, 2014, they have put a lot of comprehensive and interacted and integrated policy instrument. They announced the feed-in tariff by year 2014, and they also enforced the IBB mechanism through BOO, and they are working a lot on that front. Yet, there is some challenges that faced the country to perform and to transform that into actual contracts awarded, like the case of Morocco and Jordan, who did it, and by big numbers. We know that this was, in the same time, the feed-in tariff scheme, first round was tendered. It ended up that 10 investors have signed, 28th of October this year. But yet, there is a lot of challenges. The government is still working on in order to meet these challenges. But in the meantime, if we connect that with the second point, that in the same time, the government of Egypt announced, with the help of the EU, their strategy for energy for year 2035. Away from the gas part of the energy strategy, government have put a very new targets, very challenging targets, like 37% by year 2030, or year 2035, I'm sorry. They also working on second round of the feed-in tariff. How do you see all these dynamics, these interactions working together, and that how Egypt will move further in order to expand their installing capacity in terms of awarded contract, in terms of PPA sign, in terms of construction, and then operational in the ground? Dr. Ahmed, floor is yours, and thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ahmed, and thanks for the introduction. I hope I really deserve it. Just because I know we are running out of time, or even we are behind the schedule. Yes, the 2 points you mentioned are very important. At least from the civil society, I can feel how we are facing challenges in Egypt to really see what we are talking about, because we have been talking about these things, and I don't think I have told you this before, but the first time in my life I attended an energy conference was in Nairobi in August 1981. 35 years ago, it was the first United Nations conference on new and renewable sources of energies. And at that time, what we are talking about was actually there. We were talking about it, and we thought that we can make a lot. I think what we have, the problem that we have in Egypt, if I can describe it as a problem, is that we are always afraid of making the change. It's always, you find the government is always hesitant to take, and they see, maybe in the past, not 2013, but 10, 15 years ago, we would say that they will come and claim that, we cannot do what's going on in Europe or in developed countries. But right now, and this is where I see the role of RCRI is very important, we have Morocco and Jordan. They were able to, to move ahead and to really bring very good cases that we can present in the COP. and we can show that we were able to deliver what we are talking about. Even if we are celebrating that 10 companies have signed in October, I found that this was also a kind of failure. I'm sorry to say that, because we should have done this years before, and even the time between we announced the initiative and the time we signed, it was very long time, which if you compare it, for example, with Jordan, you cannot really compare. But the three things that we are always forgetting in our work, and then the center of the three things is very important as well. If we have the legislations, and we have alternatives, and we have the awareness. But in the middle, you have a good governance. Good governance that you can bring the different actors and they discuss, and then you get into the best model and the best solution. What happened that the government is always looking at the private sector, and as the private sector is coming to steal they are very suspicious about them. And this is why it took longer than it should. They are looking at the civil society the same way. They are looking at, So this is why I feel like, the very good governance process in Egypt might bring a different and a faster process. Because Egypt is huge. Someone yesterday sent me the population count. We are now above 92 million. 92 million people are living on only this thread of 4% of the total area. And we have many examples of small-scale projects on solar energy, on biomass, that are not taken seriously by the government to be mainstreamed and to be replicated and expanded in the whole country. In Egypt, look at the how many people are living in the agriculture areas, and we are suffering, for example, of the black cloud, because we are not using the agriculture waste, while we have good examples on the small scale that we can provide energy from the biomass. So I think these are the three elements of the equation: the legislations, the alternatives, of course, appropriate alternatives, not very expensive, but something that could be taken seriously, and also the awareness raising. I think we all agree that in the last 2 years, and especially after we had the energy crisis, people start to understand and to really believe in that energy saving is good and important. Of course, with also removing a large part of the subsidy, also give the people the feeling that energy is something that we have to conserve. But my solution that I've been always telling our leaders in the Ministry of Electricity and Renewable Energy, in the Environment, and even in the Ministry of Planning, that you have to look at other examples, and it is not bad to learn from others. You don't need to create an Egyptian model. You need only to learn from others, and you find how your model could be better, but not to be worse. And in this case, I think the role again of RCRE, of bringing the knowledge of Jordan and Morocco and helping the Egyptians to moving, because if Egypt move the same way Jordan and Morocco move, it will make a real big difference in the region. So one last thing that I would like to highlight here, that even if we are talking about the feed-in tariff with the largest scale, I think, and we will remain as civil society helping our communities to understand and to take the very small-scale solutions that could be taken by communities, because at the end of the day, if you are having economic crisis and you have energy crisis, you have to use all the different solutions, not only the large-scale solutions, but you have to work also on the small-scale solutions. And as I said, we have very good examples, successful stories on all different aspects of renewables. And this is where I think it has to go together. And this is what I said also to all the donors, that don't only invest in the large scale, but also invest in the small scale, and this what will make the real difference in the future. Thank you very much, and sorry for keeping you waiting.
So thank you to the panel. I think this was an excellent, very inspirational, actually, way to release the findings of the 2016 Arab Future Energy Index report. I want to congratulate again the lead author, Majid. Please take a stand. Special applause for the lead author and the team, of course. Really excellent work. This is a very good edition of this report. And I'd like to thank our speakers. I think especially the going from the Morocco case of the large-scale innovative solutions that are coming online through the important fragile situation of Jordan and how energy is really critical to maintaining the stability of the kingdom and addressing also the plight of some of the most vulnerable in the region, the refugees, and also, of course, the Egypt case and really how we can use these findings and expanding solar energy to have energy access for the poor and the rural farmers in particular. I think these are all activities that UNDP, for one, are really taking close to heart. It's part of our programming with the governments of Morocco, Egypt, and Jordan, and we look forward to working with you on these important findings of the AFEX 2017. Thanks again to IDB for hosting this important event, and I hope everyone enjoyed this event and learned much, and please do take the reports that are here with you, and we look forward to cooperation in the future. Thanks again to our partners at EBRD as well for joining us. Thank you, everybody.